Just setting up for our Wednesday night live. So bear with me as I get situated here and wait for friends to hop on. And once you do get on, just send a message or comment. All right. So welcome to Without Conviction podcast. We are live on Facebook. We're live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's hopefully it's a convenient time for you all. Hi, Kevin. Glad to see you're on here. Kevin and I did a podcast the other day, and it was such a great conversation. That's a pre-recorded podcast that we did called Pros and Cons, and that will be airing on the Early Talk Sessions Facebook page. But we'll share that with you when it's ready, when it's all edited and put out. We'll share that. But man, we got into some good stuff. And typically what happens if somebody is having a conversation with me, I'm kind of all over the place. And, there is a method to my madness, though. The reason I'm all over the place, besides ADD, is all of these issues and subject matter are intertwined and related. There's it's almost like a domino effect or a ripple effect with a lot of our social issues and the issues with our criminal justice system as well. They all are meant to work together, whether it be for good or for bad. But that's why people like myself, like Kevin, are fighting to be on the right side. And I always say the right side of evolution, because that's what we want. We want to change things and grow and change things for the better. But I want to be able to say, or at least have my children or grandchildren say, my mom was on the right side. She was on the side for the people, to protect the people. So I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about, as I will be doing every Wednesday, a little bit about my brother, Sean, who is the inspiration behind Without Conviction. And he is my motivation for the work that I do for criminal justice reform and for other social issues that I speak about and do work for. This is all work out of love. Every ounce of energy that I put into this comes from love. And my brother was wrongfully convicted. We are working very diligently to prove that. We do have the evidence. He's been denied several times his chance back in court. His case should have never gone through in the first place, but it should have at least been overturned. They would not give it a second look. They just rubber stamped it every time he got before, or he never even got before the judge. He got railroaded while he was serving time. He was an easy target for corrupt officials in Auburn County, not Cayuga County, Auburn Prison, Auburn Correctional Facility. He was serving time there, and someone was killed in the prison. And, you know, instead of doing any real investigating, they honed in on one individual, and that happened to be my brother. And, you know, they did try to name, well, not the officials, but their paid informants tried to name other individuals who were unindicted, and turned out to be one of those men was an innocent man who was serving time on a wrongful conviction as well, and he ended up getting his wrongful conviction overturned later on. But we're gonna get into that in a future episode. I am waiting for Mr. Dion, where I don't know if he's on, but I would like for you to Dion Powell. He is the creator of the Free Thinking Democrats of New York. A very, very interesting group of people. I am now a member of that group because it appeals to me. Although I'm no longer living in the city, I'm still in the state of New York. And, you know, there's a lot of politics going on that, you know, we should have an open-minded discussion about. Everything is not binary. Everything is not, although we live in a country with a two-party system, there are so many other people who are in the mix, in the middle. People like myself. I don't belong to any political party, nor do I want to, because there tends to be that cult-like atmosphere within those parties, and I can't be dogmatic about my thinking and my decision making when it comes to voting and looking at issues. I can't just attach myself to a group and go along with that. So that's why I do appreciate that group, the Free Thinking Democrats. And if my guest will hop on, let me just take a look and see if I can do this. Hang on. Let's see. I'm just going to tag him on here as a reminder. And I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So let's hope we don't get interrupted. Let's see. I don't know if that'll work. Nope, that's not gonna work. But anyway, if I hope he's not having difficulty getting on. This has been kind of the routine since I started doing these lives. We've been having issues getting guests on for some reason. Just the technical aspect of it. I mean, I think they want to be here. I hope. Last week we had a really great conversation with Professor Terence Coffey, and I love talking with him kind of like off the cuff. Nothing, there are no holds barred on here on a live. You know, we don't have to watch what we say or time ourselves or anything like that. So I really like that freedom with doing these lives. I'm just hoping that Mr. Powell can find his way on here, although I did not send him a reminder. For some reason, my brand new phone was frozen, wouldn't let me do anything. And if anybody else has had that problem, this was a huge investment for me. The iPhone 12 Max Pro. If anybody else, I know my friend has some issues with hers, where her phone freezes up too. So it's not just me that's had that happen. If that's happened to anybody else, I'd love to know. I'm just going through my notes so I can share with you all, because this may very well turn into a monologue unless I get somebody on here with me. So today's title of the show is Where There's a Will, There's Willful Ignorance. And if it's not self-explanatory, for me, I see, a lot of organizing with ideas, with movements and stuff. And, then there's so much, lately, there's been so much progress on one side. So that's the will that I'm talking about or referencing. There's such a humanitarian will, at least in this country, to support our brothers and sisters who have been marginalized for forever, really. And the willful ignorance is that opposition to progress, to movement, to change, to supporting others who are different from oneself. And part of that is kind of taking back or claiming ownership on our part, and for individuals who are marginalized or discriminated against. I want us to really take our power, own our power. And, I was thinking a lot about the word patriot and how people use that to identify, who they are, what their role is in this country, what their duty is in this country. And if we really think about what is patriotism and what are we patriotic to? If we cling to only one side and only one type or only one community or demographic, you're not a patriot. You are a separatist, because you're not embracing your brothers and sisters in this country, your fellow citizens in this country. There is no one face of America. It is very vast and varied. We come from if there is a face of America, it's not going to look like it's not going to look like the majority now. There was a face of America, and those were the Native Americans. And where are they now? Are they the face of America? So that's just something that bothers me when somebody claims to be a patriot, yet they dismiss entire populations within their own country. These are your fellow countrymen. We need to really look at the broader picture and really embrace our fellow Americans as Americans, and not put the label first, because do, I don't know, maybe this is just my experience, but I'm going to tell you my own observation. I don't recall ever having to say or define myself or identify as a white American. So why are we always constantly labeling African American, Asian American, Latino American? Why? Why are we not just embracing our fellow citizens as Americans? Is there such a thing? And I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe this is just beyond comprehension to some. I don't know. But I just thought that was really interesting that some people claim to be patriots, yet they don't even acknowledge or recognize their fellow Americans as Americans. So I'm going to move to the next of my little, I jot down these little notes before we come on. So when I was talking earlier, I know Fina is on here. Hi, Fina. So glad you're joining us today. And Fina is an amazing politician in the state of Hawaii. She is a libertarian, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that you mentioned earlier that there are more than two parties. Of course there are. I acknowledge that there are more parties. However, when the divisive tactics come into play, it's really two-sided. It's really two-sided. And then you, like myself, I believe, fall into, some sort of middle or gray area where we don't attach ourselves to either extreme, but we're trying to move forward. We're trying to be progressive, and being progressive does not mean being a complete liberal on one side, and it doesn't mean dismissing some of the conservative views in this country. And I feel like when an individual speaks that way and you try to have a pragmatic approach to life and problem solving, then when you're attached to one of the two sides, somebody like me is, I'm without a home. I have no political allies on either of those two sides, and that those are the two major parties. It's always Democrat and Republican. When have we had anyone else in presidential office outside of those two parties? And I'm hoping that with all of the progress that we've been making, I'm hoping that will change. I would love to do away with the parties altogether, and just go based on what an individual representative believes and how best that suits their constituents. And I know that I've read quite a few posts from Fina, and I know you've had your own personal experiences within your family, dealing with the criminal justice system and the unfairness and the harshness, and like this machine. It's almost like a machine to harvest and farm young people and get them into the system and just keep that wheel turning, because it's profitable. And that's something else I really I like to look into, is that, you know, what are we really representing? Or not us as you know, voters or citizens, but the politicians who are in office. And, you know, maybe not on a local level, and that's why I love local politics, but on a grander scale, you know, what are they representing? They're usually representing special interests. And, you know, we have to think, well, why, you know, why are they representing these special interests? Because they're the ones that are paying for the campaigns. They're basically buying the representatives. They're buying their campaigns. And of course, they're going to use, you know, deceitful tactics when speaking to the public, when trying to get votes. But we live in a capitalist country. We are a capitalist country. So what does that mean? That's going to, this whole system that has been in place feeds capitalism. And I'm not saying that that's completely wrong, you know, being capitalist, but I think that we need to re-examine the distribution. So I think that we can, without completely being a socialist country, or without being, you know, without changing that aspect, because people should be able to prosper and prosper by great means, you know, by great leaps and bounds. We should be able to, you know, I think entrepreneurs are very fortunate to be in this country, because, you know, you can really go a long way. And I don't even have to give the examples of the most successful people in the past few years, because we all know, because we all use their products. We all know, we've all supported their growth. So I think that we should support capitalism on some level, but we have to, I think, re-examine and maybe restructure what that means, because we should not have such a wealth gap in this country. There's no reason other than complete greed and ignorance, really. And that's part of that willful ignorance. You know, we all have the ability now to do our own research. We all have computers right in the palm of our hands. We can look anything up. We can look anyone up. So do your research and, you know, learn something today. So I was saying earlier about the patriots in this country, or the people who claim to be patriots, yet they exclude, you know, entire portions of this country. You know, we need to really work together. We need to work together to make sure that they become the minority. So the more we have these discussions and we air these conversations that we have, it's going to reach someone. And even if they have an opposing view or an opposing opinion, I welcome that conversation, because that's the only way that we're going to move forward. We have to hear each other, because there is some value. There is some value, and we'll never budge an inch if we just keep butting heads and alienating the other side. We have to hear, even if it's outrageous, even if it's, you know, we can't do the same thing by dismissing the the conservatives and their views, because guess what? They're here and we have to deal with them just the same as we're here and they have to deal with us. So we need to learn how to bridge that gap, to make any progress. But we do have to work collectively to make that opposition the minority. Speaking of minority, I have on here, wanted to talk about, because a lot of liberals and progressive thinkers are very opinionated when it comes to immigration, border control. Well, both sides have, I think, extreme opinions. And that's one of my I guess more like ambiguous ideas, where I can I don't completely attach to the left. I don't completely attach to the right. I feel like we absolutely need for our country to be anything, for safety, for our economy, for health, all of the above. We need to definitely secure our borders. That's no question. Now, how that is done is a whole other issue. There is a humanitarian crisis at our border, and we're still feeling the effects of the displaced children and families, and the efforts now to reunite those families, and it falls on the taxpayers. So if these mistakes had not been made, if these atrocities had not occurred in the first place, where it's the thinking behind it, or the ideals behind it, is to keep our country safe and deter certain things. But look at the mess we're in now, trying to reunite families. That's on us, and it's coming out of our pockets again. So maybe if the effort would have been made to treat them like human beings in the beginning, it could have been resolved a lot more dignified, and it could have been resolved, period. But I still do believe that we definitely need to keep our borders safe. I think that's a very important issue, and it's one worthy of discussion. It's one worthy of our tax dollars to keep it safe. But we just have to figure out how does that look on a human scale for these families with children, risking their lives to come here, and what they have to face if they do cross our border, because it's our responsibility in the first place to protect the border, number one. And if we do that the right way, then we won't have these humanitarian crises in the future. Speaking of all of that, Kamala Harris. I don't know. She's a politician. I can't say, I'm happy that we have, at least as far as image, we have a woman of color, a woman of color, be in office in that position. However, she's still a politician. And, you know, we can't just throw everything into that alone. I saw an interview with Lester Holt, and this is just something that really pissed me off. I saw this, just one thing in particular that really made my blood boil. He asked her about visiting the border. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you must go to the border. I'm demanding it. I'm not saying that. All her response to the question is what got me. And it kind of just, I don't know, it was arrogant, I think. It was very arrogant, the way she responded to the question. At first, she was kind of deflective about it. She said, we have been to the border. We have been to the border. But that wasn't the question. And, you know, he asked her again, have you personally been to the border? And her response, she scoffed and kind of laughed. And she said, well, I haven't been to Europe. Like, are you kidding me? We have all of this happening right now. And I'm sure she's under a great deal of pressure. That's, who am I, right? But she works for us. She represents us. And if there's a question posed, I believe that we have the right and the entitlement to get an honest answer and a respectful answer from her. And the fact that she scoffed at that, I was like, that doesn't seem like a, you know, a very honest person. The fact that first she tried to deflect from it, but anyway, I don't want to harp on that. It just made me really upset that she said that she hadn't been to Europe. Like, what kind of response is that? What kind of response is that? Who the F cares that you haven't been to Europe? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about our border in our country. The fact that you haven't visited there or Europe, those, you don't compare the two. You don't compare the two, because this territory is your job, not Europe. So it wasn't about asking, like, do you have vacation plans for the border? It, you know, this is a serious issue and a serious topic. And I would have appreciated if she said, no, I haven't been to the border. I understand that there's a crisis there and we have to figure stuff out. And, you know, I would have appreciated at least that. But it was like she didn't even want to answer it. But who knows? Maybe she's just fed up too with a lot of crap. But anyway, I commented on that on Facebook on a post that somebody put up. Ron Kuby, I think, posted something, and I got some flack from another individual on there, and she said, oh, isn't that like, you know, or she said, why is there such pressure or such demand for this photo op at the border? And that, isn't this like a gotcha moment for the Trump supporters, or she called them Trumpists? And like, it's not about a photo op, because whether she was there or not was not even what upset me. What upset me is how she responded. That's what really upset me. And the second part of that is, if it is a gotcha moment for the Trumpsters, as this woman called them, who cares if they get their gotcha moment? That's what they're gonna do. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna call out every single thing that she does, and they're gonna scrutinize and pick her apart. Let them do that. But how about me having that legitimate concern. Am I not allowed to question anything now? Do I have to blindly follow? And that's kind of what gets me about affiliating or attaching yourself to one side and one set of ideas, you know? But anyway, I think that we're entitled to an answer, not because we belong to a certain political party, but because we are Americans, and we should be able to ask our representatives a question. I mean, the thing about that whole thing, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I'm going to a little bit more. It was a planned interview. It's not like it was a surprise, like TMZ coming at her on the street, like, oh, Kamala, you weren't at the border, or so-and-so said this. This was a planned interview. So was she really that unprepared to answer that obvious question? Like, that's on everybody's mind right now? I don't know. I'm gonna leave that alone. I want to open this up to see if anybody wants to join me in the discussion. You can request to join in now. So I'm here. I don't know if it's on a delay or anything, but if you want to hop on with me, you are more than welcome. And I just want to take this moment to really thank everybody for supporting this podcast, for supporting me, for supporting Without Conviction and my brother and his fight for justice. We are making slow progress, but we're making progress nonetheless. We don't have any updates as far as legal stuff getting back before a judge, but I will be doing an interview with Gilad and Taylor from the Hum podcast in Canada, and they are part of a humanitarian rights and activist group in Canada, and we'll be doing that. I'll be doing the interview on the 17th, so I'll be sharing a lot more of Sean's story, and I'll be sharing more of his story with you all as well. I'm kind of just getting the hang of this, doing these lives with you and getting acquainted. And by that, I'll just say, I enjoy this. I enjoy this opportunity because we can chit chat back and forth as I'm live. I really like the feedback. I appreciate the comments and the likes and the shares. And if you can, just one amazing way that you can support this movement is just to share a video. Share the Without Conviction page. I post links to our the audio podcast as well. And so if somebody doesn't have the time to sit and watch a video, they can listen passively while they're driving or cleaning the house or whatever. But I put out different formats so that this conversation and these talks can be enjoyed, and I hope you're enjoying them. One amazing aspect for me is I get to interact with adults for a little while, once a week, since I'm home with all the kids. And I appreciate the opportunity to throw on some makeup and dress somewhat like a grown-up, at least from the waist up, every Wednesday. So thank you for that. I'm just gonna go take a look at some of my notes. Bear with me. See what exciting things are coming up. I had mentioned earlier that I did an interview. I don't even like to say interview because I'm not really interviewing my the that I have come on these shows, these podcast episodes. It's really just a conversation. So the last one that we did that was recorded was with Mr. Kevin Haynes. And the funny part is he and I had never spoken before. We had never seen each other. We literally met through this. And he watched the live that I did, and he just, he commented a few things on here, and, he caught my interest with what he was saying. And so I said, oh, this is going to be a good conversation. And that's what we did. We scheduled our Zoom, just a Zoom meeting, and then, it was all very, very authentic, We just got to meet for the first time on screen, face to face. So it was nice. It was really, really good. It was so good that the conversation went over time on our Zoom meeting. So we had to log off and log back on because he has a well of wisdom and knowledge and information. And he's going to be on one of these lives, hopefully in maybe the next week or two. And I'm just looking forward to sharing all of these new connections that are being made through just advocating, speaking out, sharing each other's stories, and reaching out to the right people or connecting with the right people. There are a lot of politicians who follow the page, they follow the podcast, and by having these conversations, it helps, touch or tap into the human side of things. And it's not just numbers, and it's not just statistics. These are true personal stories from people who have been wronged, these legally they've been wronged. They have the law to back up some extreme cases of torture, and that's what started without conviction, is the wrongful convictions. And could you imagine being charged with something that you had nothing to do with, you had no knowledge of? In some cases, you could have no idea what occurred, and by these unethical tactics that are used, you could give a false confession. Could you imagine? Can you imagine confessing to a murder that you had no knowledge of, you were not there, you did not commit the crime, you didn't do anything wrong, you're just living your life, and they decide that you are the one that they're going to pin this on, and by coercion, by different forms of unethical forms of, I'm going to call it torture, sleep deprivation, food deprivation, all they lie to individuals. They say that there's evidence against them. Laws are being changed in some states. I think Connecticut was the most recent to adopt a law saying that they can't use coercive tactics on juveniles, but that still leaves a whole population of adults who can still be tricked. But and then from there if you go into court from there, you get indicted because you confessed. What what more is there to it? You can't fight. What are you going to do? Fight it? Say, I take it back afterwards? And there are many, many, many documented cases. One such case is Jeffrey Descovic's case. He was a kid. He was a child, a teenager, and so sad and tragic. He was charged with a rape and murder of a young girl, a friend, and the police, they manipulated this kid by making him think that he was helping to solve the case. So he was willing, to do whatever it took. They took him in the cop car like it was a ride along or something, like he was part of their team, and they ultimately just turned the whole thing around and claimed that he was the one who did it. They decided he's the one who did it, or they at least decided, well, he's the one that is going to be punished for it. This man sat in prison. This little kid sat in prison. Okay? He was transferred to an adult prison. Little kid, it's a very sad, tragic story. But he's got a documentary out. I'll share a lot of that information, and he's actually going to be a guest on here. So I can't wait. I cannot wait. We've been trying to connect for months and months, and I'm hoping that he'll be on here next Wednesday with us. So we have that to look forward to. But that's Jeffrey Descovic. Now, in his case, ultimately, he was exonerated. His conviction got overturned because there was DNA to exclude him and prove his innocence. But how tragic is that? A young girl lost her life. She was brutalized. And where's the justice? Where is the justice for her when they're not even looking for her killer? They're not even looking for him. So it's such a waste. It's such a waste of people's lives, a waste of tax dollars. And if we were doing it right in the first place, then we would have so many more resources for the victims, the families of the victims. And that's really where the focus should be, is true justice. And part of justice is being restored. How does a family attain any restoration when they lose a loved one and the guilty party is unpunished, unpursued, nothing? They're not, so they go from that, and instead of trying to really investigate, they take the easy route and pin it on someone who's vulnerable, an easy target to get. What does that mean? That's not justice. It's not right. And then they ruin another innocent life. Do you really think that prison is traumatic for anyone? For anyone who goes into the prison system in this country. The prison system here is not designed for It's not designed for rehabilitation. It's not designed to build up oneself, to equip oneself, to re-enter society. It's structured in such a way that once you are in it, odds are that's it for the rest of your life. And that's going to be your new normal. And it's a burden not just on the families, but it's a burden on us, because we're losing any potential that these people have, any potential to contribute to society that these people may have. So we're not rehabilitating. Bear with me just a sec. I gotta pause my mic. Okay. So, yeah, with Mr. Deskovic, so once he was exonerated, he started the Deskovic Foundation to help other wrongfully convicted individuals. And, it's very honorable, I'd say, when someone who has been wronged just totally violated his entire life, for him to turn that around and say, I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to, seek revenge or live in that sorrow and sadness. But he's saying, no, I don't want this to happen to the next person. And that's been a common theme that I've noticed among wrongfully convicted people, is that they want to change. They need to change. It's like a fire inside them. They are just determined now to change. And he's done that so much so that he is now an attorney. And he's working on his first exoneration case. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be able to chat with him in the future, because he's been an inspiration. He's been an inspiration to many people. And I actually learned about him and his story through my own brother, from Sean. And, I'm just happy that I'm meeting and connecting with so many amazing people now, because of him, because of Sean. I think we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you all so much for joining me. And I'll probably hop on here maybe later in the week and have a quick hello for everybody. And just feel free, leave me a comment, inbox me, share the video, share my, the previous videos, and just let's keep this fight going, and you keep fueling this fire. Thank you so much. I will be with you next week, same day, same time, right here. I'll send out reminders for everybody. But thank you so much for being with me tonight. All right. I'm Heather Trentacosta, and this is Without Conviction.